Let's take you through the papers this morning. Start with the Times. A beaming Queen gets her party started as the first day of the Jubilee celebrations began yesterday.
The Express says incredible, showing an image of the Mall packed with crowds. Unbelievable photograph, that.
The Mirror says, wow, what a racket, Great Granny. It's that lovely shot of Prince Louis covering his ears as the flypast took place.
The Eye calls her the history maker as she becomes the first British monarch to mark 70 years on the throne.
Nutcases, says the Star. There is a picture of Her Majesty the Queen out there with the red arrows, we should point out.
Yeah.
But it's looking at travel chaos for holidaymakers. Airports are urging travellers just to take cabin bags if they want to avoid long delays.
I think it's a good idea. The Guardian is reporting that the waiting lists for gynecology treatments have risen to over 500,000. It says doctors' routine dismissal of women's debilitating conditions causes problems elsewhere in the NHS.
And the Financial Times says major oil-producing nations have agreed to increase production over the summer to slow the rising cost of energy.
And the Ukrainians look to the long fight ahead after 100 days now of brutal, bloody combat, reports The Independent. The beleaguered nation has long exceeded expectations and is forcing Russia to pay dearly at every step.
Well, let's go through some of those papers now. Joining us now is Benjamin Butterworth from the newspaper and the journalist Nabila Ramdani. Good to see you both this morning.
Actually, it's not just both, because that shot there showed Benjamin
with the Queen.
With the Queen in the background.
Yeah.
How do you know which is which?
Oh, dear. She's lurking over your shoulder.
Yeah. Let's start with the Times, Nabila, should we? And, I mean, some beautiful pictures of Her Majesty yesterday.
Well, absolutely. The Beaming Queen is really a fitting title, as Her Majesty absolutely launched the beginning of a four-day platinum Jubilee of celebrations across the nation. And indeed, a lot of foreigners keeping a very close eye on the events and enjoying every bit of it. And we learn in the Times that she's actually made appearances on the balcony since she was 13 months old.
That's right.
95 years ago.
Apparently, she was first presented on the balcony when she was 13 months old. So
That's
she's pretty used to it.
She's pretty used to it, and she's enjoying it, clearly. I mean, unsurprisingly, you look at all the papers today, and, you know, there's absolutely, you know, they're full on of royal coverage. And so it should be. You know, I have to say that a lot of the time, you know, that people criticise the British press for all kinds of things, but there's no denying that it provides a fantastic public service when it comes to covering historical events like this. And, you know, we say about newspapers, they're often the first draft of history. And we have all the excitement here of what was a remarkable day of launching a marathon weekend of celebrations. And, you know, I was listening to your conversations earlier about you know, why is the British Crown so important? And, you know, in the end, we're talking about privileged family. But I think there's a great sense of history attached to the Crown. It's very much part and parcel of, you know, British history and indeed British tradition. I mean, the Queen is a massive chunk. She personifies a massive chunk of British history. And the institution of the Crown, in many ways, defines the British state and indeed the working of the British state. So it's a very delicate balance between, you know, the Crown, which is a huge part of British history. It effectively bounds the past with democratic values. And I think all the basic formalities, the bowing, the respect, the pageantry, are fundamental to bind it all together.
I don't know, I find it quite difficult to justify that. I mean, if she walked in here now, would you curtsy?
Oh
yeah, absolutely.
I'd bow.
At the most basic level, out of respect.
Would you curtsy or bow?
I would. Look, I can't claim that I don't find it, you know, a little odd. You know, in the rest of our life, the idea of bowing or curtsying to another person, especially simply because of where they were born, would seem incredibly strange. But for the fact of what it means about the country and the sense of history and the sense of identity that it gives you, that's why I love it. You know, there'd be 1,001 different things we could discuss this morning where we'd all disagree. And yet this is the one thing where the vast majority of the country just looks to the Queen, looks to these pomp and ceremony like we saw yesterday.
Yes, but I'm not sure they know why. Well, there were all those people in the Mall yesterday saying, oh, isn't she wonderful? Isn't it brilliant? I'd do anything to be here. And And you just think, why?
I know what you're getting at, but it isn't just the fact it makes us smile enough. You know, if you were designing a country from scratch, if I were anyway, I wouldn't put a monarchy in place. But given we've got one, and given the joy that it brings, and I was thinking about it yesterday. You know, I've written a story for today's newspaper that there's 70,000 street parties happening over this weekend. 10 million people will go to an event. A lot of those people will be the elderly. There'll be people that live alone. You know, events like this are pretty much unique in reaching so many people that actually often get forgotten. You know, it really is a reminder of the community spirit. And I think for that alone, that's a good enough reason.
Yes, and also, you know, just listening to messages from world leaders who, you know, have
the Pope, the President of the United States.
From great republics,
Emmanuel
from
Macron,
America,
everybody
from France.
did it, didn't they?
So, you know, people absolutely adore that sense of pomp and circumstance, which, it has to be said, the British do superbly. And people, you know, came in their thousands on the Mall to watch the British Army parade, to watch all that, you know, beautiful
Benjamin,
display of
you've done the
traditions.
Mall thing, haven't you?
Yes, at the Diamond Jubilee. I mean, I was there when I was 19, 18. I was at Parliament Square for William and Catherine's wedding, and then at the Diamond Jubilee, I was on the Mall, and I was walking at the very front as you go
You know,
up.
as the police let people walk
Precisely.
down. Yeah.
And then I was sort of face pressed against the railings, the gates of Buckingham Palace for the wave. And, you know, I'm so glad I did it because it's an extraordinary experience, and just the sense of joy. And also, it's not just British people when you're in there. You have people from the whole world that turn up to be a part of that moment. And, you know, I've got a little selfie of me against the railings with the royals in the background. And
Have you? You should have brought it.
It's somewhere on my Instagram, but I think that's a photo that I'll treasure forever.
Well, before you come on in an hour's time, you must find it for us.
Dig it out.
Yeah. Tell us about Prince Louis, because you picked him out from the front page of the Mail.
Indeed. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen the photos by now. Now, Louis is 4 years old, so, you know, as someone who's raised a couple of boys, you know that they're pretty hard to control at 4 years old,
Yes,
I dare say.
they could do anything to let you down, couldn't they?
Yeah, even the Queen couldn't control Prince Louis. But, yeah, those pictures of him with his hands over his eyes, he's like the little cheeky monkey emoji, right, in real living form. They're on the front pages of lots of the papers. And you were mentioning earlier about how it's probably not a coincidence they put the youngest and the eldest together. In fact, I was watching a photographer about when, I think it was William or Harry being born, and how he was sat on the knee of the Queen Mother, because they always like to have the oldest and the youngest together, because, you know, it shows the lineage of the family. But I think that's one of the things that really charms the country, right? Because, you know, you see through the pomp, in a sense, and see the real family.
And, well, you saw a real relationship between the Queen.
It was really beautiful to see how he related so well with his great-grandmother, and also that he was allowed to be himself. You know, that was very beautiful to watch, and he was really amusing. He was already a bit of a character.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, I feel for him, because I was just off the Mall. I was at home in my flat, which is around the corner, and the roar of the planes overhead was incredible. It was so loud. So, you know, I can understand why a 4-year-old is pretty intimidating.
But I
You'll have
can
to get
tell
used
you
to that.
sailor suit he was wearing will be sold out.
Well, there are lots of pictures. It's identical to the sailor suit that his father wore at the same age. And there are a lot of fashionistas in the press this morning saying, I wonder if it's the same suit.
Oh, that would be
It could well be.
interesting.
I mean, it's a
Could
very
be.
traditional thing, and it's exactly the same age, the same sort of size. So maybe it's his dad's old sailor
Oh, that
suit.
would be nice,
Yeah.
anyway. Look, the disturbing story in the Mail, Nabila, they're looking at the protestors on the Mall yesterday who made a bit of a scene. They're asking, how did this manage to happen?
Yes.
But, I mean, my question with this last night when I was talking about it at home was, I mean, what do these people think they're doing? Because under these circumstances, they were very likely to have been shot dead by doing this.
Yes, it was, in fact, animal rights protesters who managed to get through the police cordon. They jumped over the barriers and got into the path of the military band as well, which I thought was a bit sad to disrupt the band, to be honest.
There was one bandsman, though, who actually just trod over him.
Yeah.
He just kept going. I don't know what he was playing, but he just went on going. They're clearly so well trained. He just kept on going. He stepped over this guy lying on
But you're quite right, Stephen. Protest is all part of democracy, of course, but it can get very dangerous at times. And it looked like it could have been likely that a lot of people watching were pretty scared at times.
It wasn't the day for it, was it?
And, as it turns out, it was, I think, something called animal rebellion, a version of Extinction Rebellion. But no one around knows that when they run out there. And,
No.
Having been to some of these celebrations on the Mall myself, I've always felt really anxious. It is the most incredible number of people. How do the police manage to be sure that there aren't any threats, that someone hasn't turned up, God forbid, with a gun or something?
Well, they effectively...
it is a great deal of trust in the public to bring us together like that.
Yeah, definitely. They effectively oppose Crown land being used in meat and dairy farming and indeed in hunting and fishing. And it has called on the royal family to rewild all Crown land. So that's the main
I think Prince Charles is
message,
doing
if you
his
like.
bit for that sort of cause anyway, isn't he?
Yeah.
But I think the police handled it quite well. I dare not imagine how it would have been handled in France, probably with baton charges and
Well,
tear gas.
interestingly, there were beacons lit all over the place, including France. I didn't know that.
There were, and also Emmanuel Macron stood for the British national anthem, which I thought was incredible.
He did?
Yeah, there's video of it if you can hunt it out, which I thought was incredibly classy, I have to say. I think,
Oh, that's a surprise, though, isn't it?
Well, he sent a lovely message, though, didn't he?
Oh, yes. He spoke of Her Majesty as a golden thread
Yeah.
linking the two countries. And he was
very
actually
generous,
very
wasn't he?
moving, because you hear a lot of people who, they talk about the monarchy with a bit of a mocking tone, even those who actually support the monarchy. But there was a lot of sincerity in his speech, and he even lit a flame at the tomb of the unknown soldiers on the Champs-Élysées yesterday with the British ambassador to France.
We see that's what makes her the golden thread, because she did her bit in the war as well, and he was remembering that amazing camaraderie between France and Britain as allies during the war.
Absolutely. He gave Her Majesty a horse for the Platinum
Called?
Jubilee called Fabulous.
Fabulous. Oh, well, there you go.
And of course, it's because Edward VIII, when he abdicated, he went off with Wallace Simpson and lived on the outskirts of Paris until their death. So, it's only because of them choosing to move to France that we ended up with Queen Elizabeth II in the first place.
Yeah, so there's quite a bond there, isn't there?
Look, we need to leave it there. Nabila, Benjamin, thank you. We shall catch up with you both a little bit later on.